Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you this morning in Washington and this afternoon in Israel. It's my pleasure to join you for this at this special time in our field. And this special year for women, peace, and security, where we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of UNSCR 1325. I want to thank Ella Alom from the Itak Mackie and our Knesset host, Oded Forer, the chairman of the Knesset Committee on the Status of Women and Gender Equality, as well as the other Knesset members and members of the Diplomatic Corps who are in attendance. I want to give a special thanks to Ambassador Chowdhury for his leadership in this issue. He's been a stalwart leader in terms of helping to promote this agenda since going back before his time at the UN. So it's wonderful to see him continuing to be active and continuing to help support this important effort. As we mark this important anniversary, which really is a landmark for all of us in terms of how we think about women's participation in peace and security, it's really incredible to look back at how much has changed over the past 20 years in terms of women's participation in conflict resolution, conflict prevention, and recovery. It's also remarkable to think of the leadership that Israel has had even before this agenda item existed. We know that Israeli women have participated in all aspects of Israel's national security since the beginning of the founding of the State of Israel. And so I think that it's very fitting that Israel is hosting this event today and recognizing and marking this important anniversary. While we definitely have seen so much progress, we know that there is an incredible amount still to do in order to ensure that we are advancing inclusive peace and security worldwide. This is a real important time for us to take stock of what we've done and what more needs to be done, as other speakers have said, as we are working to bring the Women, Peace and Security, or WPS, agenda to life. As the Ambassador at Large for the United States for Global Women's Issues, it's really my pleasure to work on these issues across our foreign policy and national security infrastructure, and to help make sure that we are integrating these critical elements into our foreign policy and national security. This is one of the two main priorities of my office, together with women's economic empowerment. And we see these as very heavily interlinked and mutually reinforcing as the principal ways that we can support women worldwide to be able to fully enjoy their rights and to be able to fully and meaningfully participate in all aspects of their communities, their societies, and their nations. So we really are fortunate in my office and in the United States that we have great tools to advance this agenda. Since 2017, the United States has been the first country that has implemented and developed national level legislation when we passed and the president signed the Women, Peace and Security Act of 2017. And this has given us a great platform to work on women, peace and security, and to make sure that we are weaving it into the fabric of our foreign policy and national security institutions, and doing more than we have in the past. It's given us, it's led us to create implementation plans that are very specific and outcome focused, that are measurable, and we do a lot of work around metrics to develop common metrics across our different agencies, whether it's the Department of Defense, my agency at the Department of State, or the U.S. Agency for International Development, to make sure that we're all working across a shared set of metrics and measurements to see how we're doing. And it's not just about how we engage with other countries, with our foreign partners, but it's also about what we're doing internally to train our own workforce, to make sure that we have the skills and knowledge about how we can implement this agenda across every aspect of what we're doing with foreign policy and national security. It's really important for us to also think about our partners, not just as the governments that we deal with on a bilateral or multilateral basis, but also the women's organizations, parliaments such as the Knesset, and others in civil society, whether it's religious and faith-based organizations or community-based organizations that are providing services. We work with such a broad range of civil society actors on this agenda. And it's everyone from, women's committees in refugee camps all the way up to making sure that there are a pool of trained and well-recognized experts who can serve as lead negotiators. And this week the past couple of weeks, I've been watching with a lot of admiration for one of our former State Department colleagues, Stephanie Williams, who has been serving in an acting capacity as the Secretary General's Special Representative in Libya, where she's made incredible progress in bringing the parties in Libya together. And we don't see enough of that. We don't have enough Stephanies out there who are able to be in that position. To this day, the most of the SRSGs and special envoys who are charged with dealing with leading negotiations on behalf of the UN remain overwhelmingly men. And so we're working to make sure that that is changing. But it's a top-down and a bottom-up approach from our perspective. We have to do both. We have to make sure that women are empowered at the grassroots to be able to speak and have their voices heard, as well as that women are in leadership positions. I think that we're really excited about what the future brings for women, peace, and security, because increasingly, especially in light of the COVID pandemic, we see countries recognizing how important it is for them to embrace inclusive security and to make sure that women are part of the solution and part of the recovery whenever we're dealing with conflict and crisis. We're focused very much on conflict and crisis-affected fragile states, where we see the intersection between women's exclusion and a lack of security, a lack of stability, and a lack of prosperity. We all know that women, when they have economic opportunities, when they have political opportunities, they invest in their communities, they speak for their communities, and they tend to embrace and promote policy approaches that are more inclusive, not just for themselves, but for their entire communities. And so we're working in places like Afghanistan to make sure that the negotiating team in the Afghan negotiations have all the tools and support that they need, while at the same time we're working to support women weavers who are working for a non-governmental organization that's helping them to get their carpets to market in Bamiyan, Afghanistan. So we have to work across the whole spectrum. We have to make sure that we're looking at this agenda holistically, and then just making sure that we, and I think it's really important, as others have noted, that our male colleagues understand that this is not about them losing a seat at the table, but about the table being being bigger, and that we're growing the pie, not redividing it. And I think that that's one of the critical things that the Women, Peace, and Security agenda really has to continue to work to overcome, is the fear that some actors do have that by including others, they themselves will lose power. I think that this is one of the greatest threats to the Women, Peace, and Security agenda, and one that we have to be very honest and open about. And we don't talk about it enough, about the power dynamics that underlie women's exclusion, as well as what can happen when women are included, and how it doesn't undermine the power and authority of those who bring women to the table. It actually enhances it. So with that, I think I'm going to say thank you again to our biggest, one of our greatest allies and our great partner. We look forward to continuing to develop our relationship with Israel on women, peace, and security. We do have a wonderful security partnership. We have a wonderful partnership with Israel working on humanitarian issues. And we look forward, especially in the Abraham Accords era that we have launched this year, to being able to develop new partnerships across the growing number of partners that Israel has that are also great security partners of the United States. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be with you today.